Well, welcome everyone. My name is Victoria Munro, and I am the Executive Director of the Alice Austen House. If you're not aware of the house or have never been to visit us on Staten Island, we are one of New York's 23 historic houses, and we have the very special honor of being a nationally designated site of LGBTQ history. Our museum supports contemporary artists and historical, and also has become a real home for poetry on Staten Island. A lot of that work started in 2020, or actually the years preceding 2020, as I planned a larger exhibition to honor Audre Lorde in pictures and in words. Audre Lorde lived on Staten Island for 17 years with her partner, Frances Clayton, and she raised her two children there. And during the process of researching the exhibition for the Alice Austen House, which ran for an entire year, and you can see that entire exhibition on our website. There's a virtual tour. There's also a wonderful virtual program that I was able to do with Audrey's very good friends, Blanche Wesson Cook, Claire Koss, Cheryl Clark, Jewel Gomez, Alexis Pauline Gums, and also Audrey's daughter, Elizabeth. So I just felt so honored to spend time, even though it was a virtual time like we have tonight, with them. And it sparked something much bigger at the house. We now run a 20-week program called a Coalition of Theatres of Colour with IS 49, which is a very high needs intermediate school on Staten Island that Elizabeth actually attended. And we use Audre Lorde's words as inspiration for that program and teach the students to craft their own personal spoken word pieces, introduce them to contemporary poets. And along this journey, so many different things came to the Alice Austen House and to me, and I forged friendships that have become more like mentorships for me. Blanche Wesson Cook is now serving on our board, so is Cheryl Clark. They were instrumental in bringing this group together tonight, and I'm so excited to be joined by some of Audre Lorde's former students from her Hunter College program. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, but I do want to name each of them. Tonight, we will have speaking and sharing some memories of her experience and time being friends with Audre Lorde, Melinda Goodman. Hi, Melinda, thank you so much for being here. We have Rosette, and correct me if I say your name wrong, Capitorto. I got that right? Great. And Donna Masini. There's so many people's lives that have been touched by Audrey's work and her teaching. And when I was thinking about putting together this event for Brooklyn Bookends this year, I knew that I really wanted to work with some of this material. And these had recently come into my possession, and they're from 1982, and they are poetry workshops. And I want to make sure they're returned to Hunter and that copies of these are available to students, and maybe also some poems reunited with their authors. So just wonderful new finds that I believe all of you three will know some of the people that contributed to this. But a huge thanks to Cheryl and Blanche and Claire for connecting me with you all. And I know we have more connections in the audience tonight. So the way we're going to structure this poetry reading and intimate share is that each author will read for around about 10 minutes. I'd love to start off each of you introducing yourself a little bit more. I know you've got some exciting projects that you're all working on, really varied. Share a memory about your time in Audrey's class or something about Audrey and read some work. And we'll reserve time at the end. I think we'll have around about 10 minutes to be able to take live questions from the audience. As we go along, please feel free, audience members, to post questions in the chat. I will be shepherding that and keeping an eye on that. And we'll certainly reserve time at the end for you. So without further ado, I would love to ask Melinda to start us off this evening. You just need to unmute.
Hi. So I met Audrey in 1978, and when I was studying poetry at Hampshire College, and I didn't know what I was going to do when I got out of there. But when I met Audrey, it was like everything that I cared about and was interested in came together in this one person. That she was political, she was a poet, and she was a lesbian, and she was an out black lesbian. I had, most of the lesbians that I knew were not out from my childhood, and so I decided that when I got back to New York, that was what I was going to do. Was I was going to study with Audrey, and so I connected with her, and she said, "Come on," and I ended up auditing her classes for like 2 or 3 years. I just kept auditing her classes, and finally she was like, "You need to go to graduate school," and I was, and so she sent me to Columbia. So I went to Columbia, which I hated, and but they had a good program because they didn't. Well, anyway, I went to Columbia, and oh yeah, well that's a whole other story because I was trying to get them to bring Audrey to Columbia to do a semester. And the head of the program there was like, well, have her send in her resume. And I told Audrey what they wanted. And she said, well, tell Mr. Towers he can blow it out his ass. And that was the end of that. So Audrey, she was fierce. And when she got too sick to teach, she recommended me to take over her workshops. I had finished my MFA. So I started teaching, and I was on the phone with her like every day. I was like, now what do I do? She was like, well, hand out the syllabus. I was like, okay, I did it. Now what? And in the beginning, I just modeled my classes after how she had done her classes because I liked her technique. But gradually, I just started to develop. I've been teaching there for 36 years as a adjunct, and yeah. What else? I mean, there's so much. I stayed with her in St. Croix for a while when her lover had to go to China for a conference, and so we had a lot of interesting conversations. And she took a splinter out of my toe, and it really hurt. And I was screaming, and she kept giving me this evil look, like, how could I be screaming because she was taking the splinter out? But I was like, it hurts. I don't know what to tell you about Audrey. I mean, she was my friend. She was my mentor. I loved her. I used to visit her. I was doing a type of healthcare, alternative healthcare, and she had a very low pain threshold. And so I would go to the hospital with her sometimes when she had to have a procedure that was going to be painful. And we would breathe through it. And, I brought her some herbs for better healing, and I got to introduce some people to her. I would bring them to the hospital. I brought Sapphire to the hospital to meet her, and it was amazing. It was amazing to get to work with her. She was very imperious too. The way she taught, she would have her glasses down like that, and she'd be like, yes, yes. And everybody who was in the room, in her classes, we all felt like we were in the most important place to be in the world when we were in that class. And, so I'll hear what other people have to say about her. Am I supposed to read the poems now?
I would love it if you would read for us. That would be fantastic.
Well, I just will. Let me see. Oh, okay. Here. What is this? Let me share my screen with you for a minute. Share screen. Oh, host disabled participant screen. Okay, all right, be that way. All right, we won't do that. I will, let me find.
You can share now.
Yeah? Okay, I'm going to show you. This is me and Audrey in, let's see, share. That's me and Audrey in St. Croix. Oh, I was choking her. Oh, can't get rid of that. Can you see that?
Beautiful.
Shelley took that picture. Shelley, a very good photographer. I'm sorry that there's all this stuff on top of the picture. Okay, so I gotta find my poems. I thought I was all set. Okay, the first poem I'm gonna read is called, the thing is, I'm not gonna read poems about Audrey or, I'm gonna read poems that, about me. Because that's what I got from Audrey. And this poem is about being sexually abused as a child by a woman. And it took me 50 years to figure out what the hell had happened to me. A lot of therapy. And one thing, Audrey, I used to go crying to Audrey, and I'd be like, well, how do you survive all this? And she was like, 30 years of therapy. And I was really glad to hear that Audrey had done therapy, because it made me feel like it was okay for me to do therapy. It wasn't such a bougie thing after all. Okay. My rapist was, oh, you can see the poem, right? Can you see the poem?
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Do you want us to see the poem, Melinda?
That's good. That's good. You can see the poem.
Okay.
My rapist was very cool. That's how she got me. She groomed me. But she isn't. She wasn't really cool. What she did felt slightly warm, but it was the opposite of cool. I thought she was taking me somewhere only she knew how to get to. She had a loud crack of a laugh like a bullwhip hitting a tired horse. She laughed at things that were ironic to her, but not really funny. When I was 13, she hurt me, but I didn't know it. She said she loved me. She called what she did love making. I lay under her like a board. I did not feel that love was made. I felt it was scary. It was creepy, creepy making. Out of body I was, watching, embarrassed, afraid to move, afraid to breathe, sad. I felt sad. I knew I was a child doing something with a grown-up, someone who was on her own. My childhood was over. I kept thinking if I could make up homework, I kept thinking I could make up homework I wasn't doing. I could catch back up. I could still be a kid with other kids, but I was a fake kid and a fake adult. I had no place to be. I had no way to be. I had left my body, and I couldn't find a way back in. She had taken charge of what I had not yet discovered about myself. I let her be the expert of my private places. I was afraid of places on my body she had touched before I owned them, before I claimed them and knew them well enough to share. Okay. Um, whoop, whoop. I guess I can get rid of that. So I feel good about that poem. It took me a long time to figure out what the abuse did to me, and wasn't good. Here's here's a poem. This poem is kind of like a spell, okay? What I can fill this room with. I am filling this room with things that went right, plastering these walls with memories of laughter, sighs of satisfaction. Oh, this room is empty, but soon the door will unslam itself, ghost open with the scent of summer peaches, orange snapdragons. I will body sway, hip roll on these smooth pine planks, stretch to the end of Sunday through Saturday, unblouse my carousing shoulders, beckon stars back from the big bang to grope their way home to their familiar, mysterious black slumber, tumbling from one velvety blossom to the next. I toss my graffiti into the future. You have seen me with my monkey face, with my owl eyes, with my rhino nose, my ballerina missteps. You have heard my snail roar. You have shimmered to my lion caress, my sleek duck across the morning lake, my dog-shaped droplets bristling with tick-tock up the slick face of the clock like nothing, like I always turn back the hands of Father Time, swing from his Roman numerals, drop Empire State into the bouncy moss of Mother Earth gathering beats, adding a distraction of rhythm into my hidden pocket of folded leaves for later, my recipe for stirring a sorrow soup of tangled widow's weeds into a tornado of screwball tenderness. You have taught me to solid throw into the baseball web of gloved anger, lob it back at home base. I have tagged out the sliders even before they slid. I have memorized all my false starts that turned out to be just what the doctor ordered. I am a little big mouse. This poem might be one colossal waste of time and life, but I have found indelible meaning repeated in my DNA 1,000 times willingly, joyfully. This room is big enough for all my splintery contradictions. I'd really like to see myself. My look of disbelief is priceless. If I had a cell phone, I'd take a selfie of the crazy look on my face when I blow out the candles through my missing front tooth. I can play two tunes at the same time, like Rassan Roland Kirk with his cyclical breathing. That ability to wade into the river of sound and walk out completely unorchestrated. It's a gift I found when I got real good at falling down, groping in the dark at the bottom of hard stairs. I brought it back up like a kitten found in a dumpster, a cat who turned out to be the best friend I ever had, or a puppy that peed on the rug, turning that ratty old mat into a magic carpet of redemption. That's the doghouse this room has become. That's the cat and the raccoon den. That's my cave I welcome you into. All right, well, uh, maybe I have room for one more. Yeah? Okay, if I can find it. Oh, oh no, that's not it. Okay, this is called Things Like That. And my Brenda was my childhood sweetheart in high school. And we got back together in our 40s, and we were together for 15 years. And then she died of a pulmonary embolism on her way to work. And she was in a coma for 12 days before she died. And it was a horrible, horrible experience. And I thought she was going to pull through. But we weren't married, and the family decided to pull the plug. And it was bad. So I've written a lot of these letter poems to Brenda. Dear Brenda, it's been snowing a lot. Remember how we used to have to dig your car out on First Street so you could get to work? We had that little tiny snow shovel you kept in the trunk of Big Blue. You loved that car. I would have kept it after you died, but I couldn't afford the bad deal you made on monthly payments. You were so proud of buying that car, brandy new, by yourself at the dealership. You didn't know they see people like you and me coming miles before we get there. The day your younger brother and sister came to pick up Big Blue, I still had some of your stuff in the back seat. Your cotton pullover sweater from Madison Square Garden, a few t-shirts, things like that. Things that still smelled like you. Things I wanted to keep. I was mad at your family for leaving me out of your obituary, things like that, even though they knew me since we were kids. So I didn't call to get that stuff back. And after your brother pawned your high school ring, I told him I would have paid him more than he got from the pawn shop if I had to. I would have paid him whatever he wanted. It's been 6 years, Brenda, and I still can't stand not laughing with you, holding and kissing you. I miss how you used to sniff my hair the way women who love babies like to sniff their heads. Were you reborn, Brenda? Are you a 6-year-old running around on a playground, eating penny candies out of a brown paper bag with little Marvin Isley on the roof of your garage? Are you a happy first grader learning how to write? Write to me, Brenda. Send it COD if they still have that. But the mail isn't what it used to be. They don't deliver in snowstorms anymore. You had to know I'd be this way, Bren. You had to know I wouldn't want to go on without you. After all, I was the one who came looking for you after all those years. I called your Uncle Frank. He called your mom. Your mom called your flip phone. You called me from the library. What do you want, you said. It was after 9/11. So many years had passed. Water under the bridge. But I don't know where to look for you now. Both of our families lost our homes to predatory reverse mortgages, and pretty soon I'll have no more connection to this town than if I'd been born here dead, a blue baby. I could get through the day if I knew tonight you would walk in my door with some groceries and eggplant parmesan. I could show up cheerful for my students if I knew tonight I could fall asleep touching my hand to your hand, my foot to your foot, things like that. But I'm turning into a sour old woman. I don't want to play anymore. Missing you has worn me down. I got sicker and sicker. Everything stopped working. My system went on strike. Then it went on attack. It keeps asking, where's that girl you used to come around to see you? Where's that woman you used to go with? My autoimmune system liked you better than it likes me. I have to take drugs to keep it from burning down the house. But I don't feel like doing the work it takes to keep going, Bren. So I try to switch to autopilot like you, Bren. You didn't think too much about what you wanted to do. You just did what had to be done. And now you're gone, and I'm here in this canyon created by the wake of your life and death. Oh, Brenda, if I had it to do over again, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't be born. I'd say no thanks when they come looking for my spirit to wrap me into pink or blue. I'd sit this one out. There's too much pain in this life, not enough joy to sustain the losses. So don't come back, Brenda. There's nothing for you here but a gloomy old girlfriend, too afraid, too stubborn, too ignorant. Shit. That's 10 minutes. Gloomy old girlfriend, too afraid, too stubborn, too ignorant to accept life on life's terms. You can do better. You deserve better. So I'll see you when I see you, girl. They say you exist inside me, but if that was true, I wouldn't mind being me. There's just too much me and not enough you in here, so unless you're willing to spread out enough inside me so I can see your face when I'm brushing my teeth, don't feel obliged to stay. I love myself, Brenda, but it's unrequited still. Don't worry, partner, I'm going to keep on playing the hand I was dealt. Even if there's nothing in it but blood, I'm going to play and play to win. Love always, your forever heifer princess. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melinda. That was really, really amazing. And thank you so much for sharing some of those memories of Audre. We are going to move along to hear from Rosette. Rosette, if you could unmute and share a little and read, that would be fantastic. Oh no, you are not muted.
Okay, because I was trying to stay very quiet because I'm afraid to touch anything. So Audre and Hunter College, I mean, talk about a hotbed of activity in that time period of the early 80s. So I do want to spend a few minutes talking about that because it was I don't know what goes on campuses now. I'm not on campuses like my colleagues here, but I know what was happening then, and it was pretty incredible. Women and people of color had taken over the schools basically, and we ran things. So we needed Audre as our icon. And I think of her words every day. We were never meant to survive. And we were never meant to survive, but here we are surviving and living our lives. And the other thing I want to say, because I always used to have this beef with identity politics, that we had these New York voices and we never had like a New York platform. There was room for a lot of other things, but not for New York. So tonight, this is really special to be with Donna and Melinda and to hear all our accents and our ways of speech. And we share that with Audre, who grew up, of course, in Manhattan and lived in Staten Island. I always say there's 5 boroughs, So I want to do that and just place ourselves in the time period. And I thought I would start I'm going to send this list around to some Hunter people, but I'm going to just start with a litany of names. This is a brief accounting of some of the amazing people that we were privileged to work and visit with and teach and stuff like that. Audre Lorde, Bella Abzug, Myrna Bain, Jonetta Cole, Blanche Wiesen-Cook, Claire Koss, Angela Davis, Nancy Dean, Louise DeSalvo, Geraldine Ferraro, Dorothy Helly, Bell Hooks, Jesse Jackson, Linda Howard, she just died, or Michael Manley, Toni Morrison, Gil Noble, Frances Fox Piven, Donna Shalala, who I hear is at New School, I don't even know, Barbara Smith, Tuli Taylor, who was a student leader, Bishop Desmond Tutu, Faye Weldon, Sue Rosenberg Zalk. I mean, there's so many more, but some of these names are recognizable outside our community. And when I think of it, it's quite a privilege. And so the other thing is we found ourselves, here we were at 68th Street, just before the walkways were built. So we were kind of crammed into that north building, which I don't know, it made for stuff happening. Like we had elevator operators, and the elevator operators, I remember they told me about when the students were striking in the 70s, they went to the elevator operators and said, you know, you're union people, you're workers, you're with us. And so we still kind of rode that, that moment in time was still going on when we were there. So anyway, I want to just bring that in. And we were returning women students. We weren't traditional high school to college. So we had I think, a different approach to educating ourselves and getting what we needed from our community and our surroundings. How did I hear about Audre? Everyone was like, you gotta take Audre, basically. She's the jam, she's it. And so you would go and please let me into your class. And we were lucky enough to be the ones to get in. So so then I want to just a few things that happened in that time period, and I had to look up the dates. But in June of '83, Maurice Bishop, he was the revolutionary head of Grenada. He spoke at Hunter, and it may have been the only speech he was allowed to make in the States or in New York. I'm not sure the detail. He was assassinated a few months later, and then the US, it was Ronald Reagan, invaded Grenada. And Audre is our teacher at this time, and her parents are from that country. So of course she had an essay out in Sister Outsider within the year. So I'm sure we were talking about this and doing all of that. Another huge thing that happened also in '83 is Michael Stewart was murdered. And oh my God, Melinda, I reread about it. I mean, he was like a brother to us, it would be someone we would hang out with. He was a Brooklyn kid. He was a Pratt. He was a model. He was an artist. He was everything. And he came from the Pyramid Club at 2:00 in the morning. He was drunk. He was, whatever. And he just tagged graffiti, and it was transit cops. He was brain dead. Within 45 minutes, an hour, they brought him to Bellevue. He lasted 2 weeks on life support. And then he succumbed. And so it turns out that the Pyramid Club, talk about another hotbed, because this was New York in the '80s, like everyone hung out. So it was his girlfriend. So I'm going to waste my time on this, but I don't care. I decided his girlfriend is a woman named Susan Malouk, who turns out, anyway, she was Michael Stewart's girlfriend. So she brought a lot of attention to this, and they were hanging out, and they did. So who was at Pyramid Club when she did these events in his name and stuff? It's Madonna, it's Basquiat, it's Keith Haring, Lou Reed, Lady Bunny, Rue. I mean, this is who's hanging out. This is who this kid was that they murdered. And so anyway, Suzanne Malouk, she went on to be I think she's a psychiatrist somewhere, but she also is the widow Basquiat. So she, she was really in that crowd. I found that very interesting. So we were very much aware of this. This was very much in the work, in the classroom, out of the classroom. We always said a lot of the work happened in the hallways and stuff like that. And then a few months after that, Eleanor Bumpurs gets murdered in the Bronx, in her apartment. What is this? I'm sorry to curse, but I really had it with this crap, because I feel like, how many times do we have to learn these lessons? It was a mental health wellness check. I don't know if the neighbors called or her people. She was, she was having, definitely but she was in her apartment, locked in her apartment. And the cops shot her through her door and killed her. I mean, and they brought her again. I don't know if she went to Bellevue, but because they kept shooting, and later it came out like her hand was blown off. She couldn't have still been a threat when they continued to shoot and murder her. And so there was a big hoopla. Michael Stewart, oh, no more, police brutality, blah, 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 blah. Eleanor Bumpurs, oh no, we have to have mental health workers come to the side when these things happen. So I would say probably everyone in the workshop at the time wrote about these things that we experience. So that's why I wanted to and there are more, we can all bring them, but now I lost my place. Okay. So that's, I just wanted to bring that in there. So I think I should just start to read something. And so I'm going to read We Begin with Food, because it says we begin. So who can say where we should begin? But Audre, I don't know, she would just say, she was everything in one, as Melinda said. That's what I think it was. It was that putting it together of intelligence, New Yorkness, you say stuff in a way that no one else can just say it that way. Fierce, warrior woman, I am a Black warrior, who could do that? Chanting, there were chants, there were African, right? I mean, in outfits, and the women of the calabash, and, shakeries. So all of this was going on all over New York. And there was an interconnectedness that we really could use in this moment, I think, in this moment in time, old people talking to young people, Black people talking to white people, all those kind of crappy, non-binary. Now we have maybe we have too many categories. I don't really know what to say about it. But anyway, I'll say this. We begin with food. My grandmother's arms rolled 5 pounds of flour into cavatelli on a Sunday morning. Labor and love and the planting of flowers and fruit. I see your hands, she says, the night we meet. A woman who is a contractor by trade, an artist by desire. Then we are able to talk. Black, Italian, mother, brother, sister. Food. Take this. Tender, long green bean, kitchen whistle clean. Knuckles, nails, skin, sun, texture. Learned how to cook from my father the hard way. Wooden spoon, red touch of tomato, borough accent specific as a dime. Rooftops come in handy on hot summer nights. Love is thick and painful. Fingers, forearms, fists, slap, throw, punch, working hands, sometimes gentle as an egg. Mortar, brick, concrete, plaster mixed like dough, dry white circle, a simple board. Water. Toxic, she says. I know what I'll die of. Callus, cramp, muscle, armload of wood, crown of barbed wire, girl Jesus, black and beautiful. Rock me in your arms of stone and steel. Let me eat and drink of you. So that's one.
Rosette, I just want to mention that I want to make sure I hold some time for Donna's reading. So if we
I'm
could,
sorry.
no,
you just have
not
one.
apologize. These were amazing things that you shared. very excited to hear one more, and we'll move to Donna.
So I have one more, and it's called The Oven. And the reason for this one is that Genesis was in Audrey's class. And actually, we had this exchange, and she said, I wrote the word Italian, E-Y-E, Italian. And she's like, you can't say that. And we kind of looked at each other and cracked up. And, these are these watershed moments. And then now you're friends. You're not student and teacher anymore. So it's just that thing. Anyway, The Oven. What are your chances for mainstreaming when you grow up in a Bronx pizza parlor and no one knows your name, only that you're Italian, and your father makes the pizza and you serve the pizza and do your homework after school at the table behind the oven, and no one ever notices your mother, but she's back there rolling meatballs, tending your little brother, and one in the belly that will be her little sister slows her down a bit. And you will change diapers in addition to doing your homework in back of the oven and frying 10 pounds of eggplant for the eggplant parmesan. And so will your sister, who is 2.5 years younger. And you both do dishes at the oversized commercial sink. And after a while, you and your sister will divide the work, and it will turn out that your sister is better at diapers and baby hairdos, and you are better at frying eggplant. And the little sister, the last one born, will make tiny pizzas, and there will be a photograph to remember this by, a little girl rolling pizza dough, which the family will eat in 6 tiny slices. Okay. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you so much, Rosette.
Huh.
Now I am really excited to have, us all at the Alice Austen House in a bigger group, so that we're not on a, this tight time frame.
No problem.
Donna, we'd love to hear from you now. And if we don't have time for questions, I will post an email that you can post your questions to, and I will make sure that they're all answered.
Victoria, thanks so much for doing this. And Rosette, you gave such a sense of Hunter at that time. It was just really what was going on and what Audrey meant at that time. And the 3 of us were there at the same time, Melinda, Rosette. Audrey, all I can say is Audrey changed my life. There was really life before Audrey and after Audrey. And I think one of the things that she said to me that was most important was that everything she did, she said, everything I've done in my life, I have done in spite of tremendous fear, not because I was fearless. And, that really, I think I couldn't have had a teacher. She was my first poetry teacher, and I couldn't have had somebody who didn't come from that kind of understanding of fear. And I knew Audrey before I met her only through an essay, The Uses of the Erotic, which somebody had given me. And I met her while I was serving drinks at an Audrey and Rich reading, and serving drinks. I was pouring like wine into little paper cups at the public theater. And somebody said, that's Audre Lorde. And I have to say, I was shy at that time. I went right over to her, and I was just like, she just looked at me and she said, come and study with me. And, I audited her class for 2 years at Hunter. And then she said, I want you to go to graduate school. And I said, oh, I can't go to graduate school because I didn't finish my degree. And I thought she was going to kill me. And she took my life and she just straightened everything out. She was like, you do this. And then I went to graduate school. I finished Hunter, went to graduate school. She really, I felt lucky when I finally got to graduate school that Audrey had been my teacher, because I felt like I was coming from a place that I knew why I wanted to write poems. And though I continue to ask myself why I continue to write poems, Audrey's always there. Her pictures, letters she sent me are on my desk at school. Anyway, the first poem I'm going to read, Audrey one time gave us an assignment. She said, write a poem called Growing Up in America. And I could not write that poem. I just could not do it. And years later, I wrote a poem that I thought, oh, this is my Growing Up in America poem. And whatever I read tonight is sort of very, very new, and you'll never hear it in the same way again. But this too, this is a Growing Up in America poem. This is called Beauty Parlor 1970. Propelled by an idea of elegance, she asked for Grecian curls. What had gotten into her head? Words. She never looked more unlike herself, a face attached to a concoction of locks, more construction than girl, aquanet confabulation. Reflections of women nod under hoods, drift like astronauts through magazines, life, look, pink curlers nestle like baby pigs. Beauticians line up in turquoise smocks, silver clips clipped to their pockets. She'd wanted tendrils, but were these tendrils snaking her face like? Everything was like something, reminded her of what? Was that her open-mouthed yowl in the mirror? She was a shield, a model of painted rage, head bobbing in the aqua mists of someone else's conflagration, rhinestone tiara pinned to her hair. What did she know of beauty? Her face launched no ship. She dreamed she went to Vietnam in her maiden form bra. Nose in a book, she bashed her head herself into mythic windows, their curtain parting apocalypses, holding up her epic neck, an hourglass of disaster inside her. Napalm, the burning girl, the paper boy dead, life, look, is that a propeller on her head? She is not the first to love and despise the likes of Achilles, poor stupid raging boy coming at her with his war cry to slaughter her with her own mirror. So there's a Growing Up in America poem. Oh, Rosette, this poem is for you tonight. I'm going to read this for you. It's actually a little prose thing. Clams. The man has ordered spaghetti with clam sauce. The woman is not fond of clams. In fact, she is not as fond of this man as she once was. The man begins to twirl the spaghetti around his fork, displacing several clams. He is frowning. She thinks of the expression happy as a clam. How happy could a clam be? Do clams have feelings, desires? She tries to imagine what a clam might look like, happily swimming around the ocean with the other clams, but she can't picture this. They need fins or legs to even crawl. Maybe they just bob around like chunks of carrot in a soup. How happy is that? She wishes she knew what clams looked like still alive in the ocean before they were dead on someone's spaghetti. So many things she's never thought to imagine. She would ask the man, but he gets annoyed when she asks things like that, things she should just know. He is not a happy man. She'd like to ask the waiter, but the waiter is not looking very happy either. She looks into the tangle of spaghetti, the juicy castanets and their parsley confetti, a gathering of smiles, looking positively chatty. Still, she'll Google it when she gets home. Clams swimming. She would like to know more about clams. This next poem, there's a word in here I got from Audrey. I was like, what does bifurcated mean? Anyway, so that word is in this poem. It's called Learning About Ants. Now that I know the head, the thorax, the bifurcated abdomen, now that I've labeled the jointed legs, the hard exoskeleton similar to human fingernails, now that I know the elbow-shaped antenna, how the jaws evolve, the large mandible, the compound eyes, small and close, numerous lenses stitched together, think soccer ball. Now that I've learned about their surprisingly poor eyesight, the claws, the small scar left after the queen sheds her wings, the stinger that weakens the victim, allows the soldiers to carry it back to the queen, how the army ants police across species, attack, bite, eviscerate, tear limb from limb, abdomen from thorax, their sister workers, drag them back to the queen to curry favor. Now that I've seen the drama enacted on 6 inches of marble over 27 minutes, it seems to me they are so much crueler to one another than my grandmother was with her bucket of bleach. When we learned about how to read a news story and how to really get to the truth and the bottom of it and to understand everything, we learned about who, what, where, when, why, and how. So this is a little sonnet called Reading the News. The cop, the man, the virus, the politician, the crook, the killer, the coward, the child, the cage, the fire, the climate, the emission, the elephant, the judge, the migrant, the exiled, murdered, tortured, infected, lied, cheated, raged, acquitted, died, drank beer, gang raped, forgot, confirmed, protested, chanted, marched, burned, in the streets, in her home, at the border, in the dark, in the courts, on a screen, in the White House, in a park, last month, last night, last year, until, for the money, for the power, for the future, for the thrill, with his knee, with his gun, with a droplet, with a mission, the cop, the woman, the virus, the politician. And let's see, I'm going to read one more, so maybe we can talk a little bit. I'll just cut it short. So maybe we could talk a little bit about Audre before I have to leave. This is called Prayers. Her mind wanders, full of what she calls detritus. She wonders whether anyone uses the nylon sheath that comes with a new umbrella, and how rarely she turns the correct burner knob on the first try, and why, if 9 took ages to spin on a rotary phone, we dialed 911 in an emergency. She thinks she should be thinking about important things like wildfires in Oregon. But what can she do about wildfires in Oregon except watch the smoldering satellite view on the Times homepage, repeating gusts of smoke spewing from the core of fire, watching disaster turn abstract, its play of pinks, reds, grays, these wind-driven fronts of flame collapse, updraft, spinning vortices of fire and air, pumping heat, miles, acres, heights, speed, trees, lives. She can't fathom the numbers. Words, words, words. How helpless her mind is. When she hears a siren, she says a quick prayer, a habit of childhood, opens her flimsy parasol of thought over the suffering, and wanders on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If Melinda and Rosette would like to unmute. Got it. So we just have a scant few minutes left, and I'm, just so appreciative of all of your time. And like I said, really watch this space at the Alice Austen House to have where we'll have a live convening where we can have more voices, more time, and a whole afternoon of this.
Yeah, I know.
Would you like, Rosette, Melinda, would you like to say anything? Final words?
Final words.
Well, we haven't read together in many, 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 many years.
Wow.
Those returning women readings.
Those returning women readings, yeah. And we were in an anthology together, I think, me and you. I don't know. That's it. Melinda, amazing. And they really carried on the legacy. I mean, it's a day-to-day thing.
The students, hear about Audre. Audre is all over the halls at Hunter, right? Especially now. But yeah.
And in my work capacity, they have what do I call it? I don't know, Hudson Pride. It's a gay center in Jersey City. They've had it a long time, but they had new space, and I got to do the vinyl. That's what I do as my business. And there's an Audre Lorde room. And I said to everyone, oh, I studied with her. And it's funny because the reason that's why I bring in some of the politics, because it seems very long, not to us, it doesn't seem long ago, but to people who just read about it in a book, I guess, it's like, really? You knew her? Really?
Remember
here she
Audrey walking into class one day,
is.
just shouting, Eleanor Bumpers, Eleanor Bumpers. And we're like, what?
I mean, this is the biggest story. And really, when you reread it, you're right there because it's happened, of course, many times since then. But that was the Bronx, which is, you know, Frances Taylor wrote about that. Kathleen, everybody wrote about it. I'm sure you wrote, we all wrote about that. But we talked about it. We had a place to talk about it.
Yeah.
That's what Audrey gave us.
Yeah.
That structure.
Yeah. She gave me my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really do every day say we were never meant to survive. Oh, okay, it's a good day, you know, and then you can make it into a good day. I mean, survival doesn't have to mean you're hanging on by your fingernails, but you have to kind of remind yourself, you know.
Audrey once said to me, now you have two mothers on Staten Island, one black and one white. And I was just like, you know, it just meant so much to me. And they were born in like very, you know, near to one another in time.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
I think it's an incredible legacy. And I think for Staten Islanders to learn about that legacy is so important. And for school children on Staten Island to hear her words and actually realize that, you know, she penned some of her most important works on the island is so incredible. And whilst, you know, the effort was made, I was a part of that effort to designate her site, her home, a site of LGBTQ history. It is a private home. And so, and the street also, there was a large effort to rename it Audre Lorde Way, St. Paul's Avenue. So we really feel at the Alice Austen House as a sister site that's open to the public, you know, that it's very important for us to continue that legacy on Staten Island. And of course, be a gathering place for those that are influenced by, continue to be influenced by Audre Lorde. And her writing just resonates so much today. So as I said,
thank you so much for doing this.
This is just
and I learned about, did you know about the Alice Austen House? I did not. So now I do. And I looked it up. It's beautiful. I can't wait to make a visit there.
I'm moving in. I'm moving in.
You moving in? Okay, we can all convene. I'll cook.
All right.
I'll help you.
We'll make some clams. Come on.
You made me hungry. You guys made me hungry.
Yeah, they make pretty good pizza on Staten Island, I gotta say.
Oh, they do. Oh my goodness. They have good, I taught out there once and they have good food everywhere.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you to our
Thanks,
audience.
Melinda. Thanks, Rosette. Bye, Shelley.
Bye, Maureen. Bye, everybody. Thank you so
Bye,
much.
everyone. See
Thank
you.
everybody. Bye.
Be well.
Bye.
Okay.
Hi, Maureen.